CAG fund public account committee. CAG don't audit RBI. Regular property audit. CAG audit regularity. CAG guardian of public purses. CAG audit of PSU. Issue. The audit board. Article 149 audit. Yes, the public account committee. CAG audit autonomous body. Substantial audit of local body if requested by state. Local body CAG headquarters of New Delhi. CAG constitutional body Article 148. 49 through audit board. Audit. CAG independent security tenure of salary charge. CAG. CAG first audit report 1980-60 by Auditor General. CAG Auditor General. First audit report. CAG can conduct a performance audit value of money. CAG cannot conduct. CAG cannot audit private companies unless government share. If government have no share in the company, not audit. CAG cannot conduct performance audit, value for money. CAG reports audit report of appropriation account. Appropriation account. CAG. Account passed in the Lok Sabha. CAG audit scope, legality, regularity, economy efficiency, legality. CAG is appointed by President under warrant. CAG oath before President. CAG oath before President. CAG is not eligible for further government office after retirement. CAG government office further retirement. CAG is not eligible. Government office. CAG act as a watchdog of public finance. CAG audit telecom. Regis come to 2010. 2010. CAG audit Colgate 2012 scam. CAG audit defense Rafale 2018. CAG audit of Panchayat state delegates. CAG audit of municipality if state delegates. CAG audit of municipality. CAG audit of autonomous bodies if government grant more than 50%. CAG audit of autonomous bodies if government grant 50% more than 50%. CAG audit PPP private partnership, public-private partnership mode, public-private partnership project. CAG audit central PSU, CAG under company act by CAG audit state PSU by state SG, Accountant General. CAG audit railway by CAG. CAG audit defense by CAG. CAG audit income tax by CAG. CAG FRMB Act, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management 2003. Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management. FRBM Act. Management 2003. Responsibility. FRMB target fiscal deficit 3% GDP, revenue deficit 0. Fiscal deficit 3%. Fiscal deficit means total fiscal for fiscal. 30% what is the expenditures? FRMB revised 2018 Encaissing Committee. FRMB Fiscal Responsible Business Management, Budget Management. Budget presentation date 1 February since 2017. 2017. Railway budget March Union Budget 2017. Budget speech Party A policy, Part B tax proposal. Budget speech. Part of a policy, Part B tax. Part A policy, Part B tax proposal. Policy and tax proposal. Economic survey, a presented day before budget by CEA. Before budget, presented day before budget. Economic survey. Fiscal policy, taxation expenditure, fiscal policy. All tax expenditure. Monetary policy, RBI interest rate, money supply. Money supply, monetary policy. RBI interest rate, money supply. RBI interest rate, money supply. Fiscal policy, taxation plus expenditure policy. Monetary policy, RBI interest rate, monetary supply, money supply. Monetary policy. Direct tax, income tax, corporate tax. Indirect tax, GST, customs tax, excise. Tax buoyancy, tax revenue growth, GDP growth. Tax revenue, GDP growth. Tax GDP ratio, tax revenue as percent of GDP. Tax revenue percent as percent of GDP. Subsidy, financial aid, food, fertilizer, fuel. Subsidy. Disinvestment. Sale of PSU shares, capital receipt. PSU shares sales, capital receipt. Expenditure Reforms Commission. Expenditure rationalization. Expenditure Reforms Commission. Budgetary support, grant to states, PSU. Budgetary support, grant to states, PSU. Budget support करछे PSU. Plan expenditure, development schemes, no capital plus revenue. Capital plus revenue. Non-planned expenditures, establishment and interest subsidies. Non-planned expenditure, establishment and interest subsidies. Non-planned expenditure, establishment and interest subsidies. Unplanned expenditure, planned. Interest subsidy, unplanned. Planned expenditure, development schemes. No capital plus revenue. Establishment, interest, subsidy, establishment. Central sponsor schemes. 60-40, 90-10 sharing. Center schemes, 100% by center. Fiscal consultations. Reduce deficit, debt sustainability. Fiscal consultation. Reduce deficit. Debt sustainability. Budgetary deficit. Come budgetary deficit. Total expenditure minus total receipt. Budgetary deficit. Budget cycles. Formulation and enactment, executions. Budget cycles. Formulation, enactment, execution. Formulation, enactment, execution, audit. Budget cycle. Enactment, execution. Budget cycle. Formulation, enactment, execution, audit. Budget cycle. Formulation, enactment, execution, audit. Budget formulation by Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. Budget formulation. Budget presented in Lok Sabha first, then Rajya Sabha. Formulation by Minister of Finance and Department of Ministry of Affairs. Finance of Economic Affairs. Budget discussions. Budget discussion. Budget discussion. General departmental voting on demand. Departmental voting on demands. Budget passed by Lok Sabha Article 30. First one on Article 113. Article 113. This is the role. Budget. Discuss only, not voting. Present in Rajya Sabha. Guillotine. All pending demands put to vote at once. Appropriation Act. Legislate expenditure. Article 114. Legalize expenditure. Vote in House. People or Legislative Assembly. Article 13. Budget pass. 114. Appropriation Act. Enter budget before election. Vote on account. Set periods. Setting of budget. Performance budget. Objectives plus achievements in 1968. Performance budget. Objectives plus achievements since 1968. Performance budget. Objectives, achievements since 1968. Performance budget. Objectives plus achievements since 1968. Performance budget. Objectives plus achievements since 1968. Objectives plus achievements since 1968. Objectives. Performance budget. Zero based budget. Every expense justified from zero. Performance budget. Objectives plus achievements. Objectives plus achievements in 1968. Outcome budget. Outcome schemes since 2005. Gender budget. All allocation for women since 2005-6. Child budget. Allocation for children. Green budget. Environmental impact of spending. Deficit finance. Borrowing to cover deficit. Deficit finance. Borrowing for cover deficit. Zero based budget means every expense starting. Budget session February March. Budget session February March. Budget divided revenue plus capital. Budget divided into revenue plus capital. Revenue plus capital. Revenue received. Tax plus non-tax non-liability. Tax plus non-tax. Capital received. Loan. This investment create liability. No liability. Loans. Capital received. Budget divided into revenue capital. Revenue expenditure. Revenue expenditure. Recurring no asset. Revenue expenditure recurring, no asset creations. No asset creation recurring. Capital expenditure, asset creations, infrastructures, revenue expenditure. No asset creation recurring. Revenue expenditure recurring, no asset creation. Capital expenditure, asset creation. Fiscal deficit, total expenditure plus total minus total receipt. Exclusive borrowings. Fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt. Fiscal deficit, total expenditure, total receipt. Primary deficit, fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Primary deficit, fiscal deficit minus interest payment. Primary deficit. Budget cycle, no expenditure without parliamentary approval. Article 1 and 4. Parliamentary approval. No grant without. No grant. Demand for grant 1 and 3. No grant. Budget. Statement of estimated receipt. Estimated receipt plus expenditure. Fiscal year up. Finance Minister 1 and 12. February March. Budget divided into revenue capitals. Budget cycle. Formulation, enactment, executions, audit. Formulation, enactment, execution, audit. Minister of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs. Minister of Finance Administrations. Consultative Fund, Finance Administration India. Part VI 6. Financial Administration. Consultative Fund, Article 266 1. Consultative Fund. Revenue, loan, repayment, public account of India. 266 2. Other public money not part of CFI. Consultative Fund of India. Public account. Consultative Fund, revenue, loans, repayment. Go here. Contingency Fund of India. 216. Unforeseen expenditure. 30,000 crores. India. Unforeseen expenditures. Emergency. No tax. No tax can be levied without authority of law. Article 265. No tax can be levied without authority of law. 260. Article 265. 263. Interstate relations. 265. Appropriation Bill. Article 1 and 4. Appropriation Bill. Authorize withdrawal from ECFI. Consultative Fund of India. Bill. 113. No. Demand of grants. Parliamentary approvals. Demand of grants. Money bill 1 and 10. Money bill. Taxations. Borrowing. Expenditure. Taxation. Expenditure for money bill. Finance bill 1 and 7. Contains taxation proposal. Not always money bill. Taxation proposal. 1 and 7. Taxation. Financial bill 1 and 7. Money bill. Hand setting. 11. Assent of the President. 12. Budget. Annual final statement. Budget. Supplementary budget. Additional expenditure during Article 1 and 5. Supplementary budget. Expenditure 1 and 5. Vote on account. Minimum temporary budget. 116. Supplementary budget. Interim budget for 2 months. 116. Additional. Appropriation 114. Additional 115. Vote on account 116. Interim budget. Charge expenditure not available. Article 112. President salary. Charge expenditure. Charge expenditure not available. 190. President salary 112.3. Vote expenditure. Voted expenditure. Voted by Lok Sabha 113. Operation bill. Vote expenditure. Automation. Reduce the earnings. Demand for grant. Reduce demand for grants. Budget. 3 types. Grant in aid. Article 275. To states statutory. State grants in aid. Article 275. Finance Commission. Article 280. Every 5 years. GST Council. Article 279. Recommend GST rates. Borrowing by Union. Article 292. On security of CFI. Security and Consolidate Fund of India. Article 292. Borrowing by Union. Article 292. Borrowing by Union. Borrowing by State. Article 293. Central consent if loan outstanding. State councils. 275 grants in aid to state statutory. Reduce demand. Audit of accounts 149 by CAG. Consolidated fund of state. Article 261. Similar to Union. Consolidated fund of state. India. Revenue, loans, repayment, revenue. Public money, other public money. Public account. Consolidated fund, public account of India. Public account state. Article 262. State level. Contingent fund of state. Article 267. 500 crore maximum. Consolidated fund or government revenue plus loans. Public account. Provident fund. Small savings, deposit. Savings, deposit. Provident fund, public account. This contingency fund. Emergency advance by President Governor. Emergency